Hello everybody, welcome back. It has been such a long time since I have done a check-in with you. Things have been, as usual, super busy, super crazy, but very fun. Lots of things happening over this neck of the woods. So I wanted to go through with you today a little bit about my prep. So we're actually officially 6 weeks, actually it's more like 5 weeks and a few days until my first show for this season. I am shooting for the Girl Power show, which is located just around the corner. It's up in Orlando. So that's on April 26th. So that is going to be the first time I hop on stage for this year. And then I'm also going to be shooting to do the Pittsburgh Pros. So they're the two big ones that I definitely have on the ticket for this year. And there may need to be more. Obviously, you guys know, like my goal is to try and get to the Olympia. Like that would be insane. So maybe we get it done this year, maybe not, who knows? But either way, it's always a fun experience. And I love a good challenge. So I want to talk a little bit about the, things that have been going on over the last couple of weeks. So goodness, on Saturday, it was super fun. I haven't done a photo shoot since, goodness, maybe like August of last year. So after my competition. So I had a photo shoot on the weekend, which was so fun. We got a bunch of new cute little outfits. And we did that over at Flex and Flow, which is a new gym that I hadn't been to before up until very recently here in Tampa. They have some really awesome equipment, great recovery stuff, which I still haven't had a chance to use. I'm like in and out of there just for training. But at some point I know I will. They have like cryotherapy, they have a cold plunge, they have red light therapy, and a couple of other things. I think hyperbaric chamber as well. I need to do some reading on those, and once I have, obviously I would love to share a little bit more about those recovery tools with you. What are the benefits and how they might be able to help us with our health and fitness journeys. But at some point that will happen. So yeah, I had a photo shoot on the weekend. I have just been really trying to get my workouts in, and unfortunately a lot of the progress that I've made so far has been completely due to caloric restriction. I have such little free time at the moment. I haven't been able to implement like my normal cardio regimen. So typically, like on a coaching day for me, because I work 12 till 12. So it's a 12-hour coaching day. It's insane. And that usually, has me getting to bed around midnight. So the morning is always spent either getting on top of admin, reviewing videos, like anything related to the company. So there's a lot of administration stuff and then just lots of personal things as well. So it's been stressful. But I've still been able to be pretty consistent with my resistance training. So I'm going to go with you and take a look at my coaching sheets now. I've got my computer pulled up just here, and we can take a look at all of that data. All right, so I have my coaching sheets pulled up. So these are the actual sheets that I use for my one-on-one coaching clients. I've got a couple of little tweaks here and there, which I will customize depending on what my clients need. Right now, I'm just looking at my personal standard coaching sheet. There's nothing new or creative about this, but I may end up making some adjustments just so that I've got two columns. I'm going to highlight the column that I'm referring to here. So I've got a column for not only the training volume, but also a column just for the minutes, just to make sure that I'm kind of staying on track with that. But right now, it's just reflecting the volume. So let's go over and have a look at all of my tracking stuff. It's been such a big adjustment to try and get back into tracking macros when I do not do that in my off season. I eat mindfully. So today, pulling out all of my data from my food tracking, I was like, oh my God, this is so time consuming. It is such an adjustment, but it's a necessary one if I'm going to compete. So I have consistently been weighing in. You can see here on Tuesday, March 11, my weight was at 134. So I was actually down in the 131s prior to that weekend, but it was my birthday. I had some friends in town. We went to a little staycation over in Clearwater, which was so much fun. Some of you might have seen those videos from that hotel over the weekend. It was awesome. So the foods that we're eating though were so salty. I remember I didn't even get through one of the meals because it was so salty. So I know that number one, calorically it was probably a little bit higher too, but Also, salt content and food choices that weekend were a little bit higher in calories. So obviously I got home, weighed in on Tuesday, and I was around 134. But I was quickly back down into the 131s, which is nice by the weekend. So my average weight this past week, as you can see here on the screen, came in at 132. So I'm just going to blow this up just a little bit so that you can hopefully see that okay. So here are those weigh-ins. I've got 134, 132, 131, 136. So there's my weekly average highlighted at 132. So my goal is to get down to about 127, I think, for this competition, but we'll have to see once I start leaning out a little bit in the areas that are going to come in last, which are always my backs of legs, hamstrings, glutes. That's pretty typical as well for most females. So if you are dieting right now and you're like, oh, everything else is lean, but I just can't get lean enough, in one particular area, it unfortunately just requires a little bit more time in a calorie deficit. And sometimes that's not always feasible either. You have to be really smart about when you decide to call it at the end of your diet, because it's in most occasions there's a tipping point where you don't want to keep pushing past in an uncomfortable place. So coming over to have a look at my tracked macros. I haven't got my dietary fiber this week, unfortunately, but I'll try to get all that logged for you guys next week. I thought the most important thing was just to look at my protein and the rest of my calories. So I'm sure you are looking at all of these numbers thinking, my goodness, this looks quite low. And you would be right. So based on my lean body mass, one might assume that my normal calories are up around, 2000. But that's when I am active. I am so sedentary, which you're about to see here when we take a look at my activity. So as a sedentary person, I don't get a whole lot of flexibility with my calories, especially not when I'm trying to compete and get into stage lean condition. So my average calories this week were 1314, and I hope that is close. I really tried my absolute best this past week to track everything, but I'm using a new app. I'm kind of playing around with things, and I know it's been a little bit tedious kind of familiarizing myself with like a new dashboard, but that it's been more challenging than I would have liked, but I think that I've got everything tracked. So my compliance to my targets, which I will talk to you about here in a moment, is 96%, which is very good. I know it's showing red on the screen, but right now I've got the parameters set to like within 3% of 100. So it's obviously 1% shy of that 3% target, higher or lower, which is why it's kicking back red. But my protein compliance was a little bit low. So let's go over and have a look and see what happened there with my macros. So I'm highlighting the column for protein on the screen. You can see there that on Monday of last week, I had 151 grams of protein. We were actually still away on Monday, so I had a nice big high protein breakfast. I think it was like a bunch of egg whites ordered at a restaurant, ham, as many protein sources I could get on my plate because I wasn't sure what we would do for the rest of the day. But it turns out that I had plenty of access to protein and actually overshot my numbers, but that's not a problem. If there's a macro that you're going to go over on in a contest prep, it's probably protein. And then I came in at 102 and 35 for carbs and fats respectively. The lower days for my protein were this past Saturday, and unfortunately that was a factor, the photo shoot was a factor for that particular number. So that was like a 2 or 3 hour ordeal, and then I had to train immediately after, and I'd only packed a protein bar with me, and I didn't get time for a breakfast in the morning because we were rushing to prep all of the outfits, obviously, get my hair done and organize everything and get there and get set up. So it just meant that by the time I'd gotten home in the afternoon, I think I only had like 2 more meals. So I just didn't want to stuff myself full either. So that was actually a much lower protein day. So I think we went out for dinner on Saturday night, and I opted for a really lean protein source because I wasn't sure what the rest of the week really looked like in terms of my compliance. So I probably overdid it by picking something very cautious. So that day is quite low in calories. You can see I had only 1100 calories, 107 carb, and 32 fat. Sunday, I was making up for lost time. Apparently, I had 1592, so a little bit above my my calorie target. but certainly back into the normal protein range, 164 carbs and 44 fat. So yeah, you can see over here in the column X, Y, and Z, we've actually got the averages. So you can see my average protein, that was 116. So again, that's why I'm a little bit shy of my actual goal at 92%. My carbs were 124 on average, and my fats were 39. So I haven't tracked sodium or fiber or anything like that yet, but I will start doing that as I get a little bit closer, because I'll need to use that information for my peak week. Okay, let's scroll over and have a look at my resistance training and my activity. You notice in these columns here that I'm highlighting on the screen, I haven't had an opportunity to do any of my subjective data entries yet, but I can say from a sleep perspective, I'm probably getting like 6 hours at most days. So I'll go to bed somewhere between like 12 and 1 a.m. and then I'm back up at 7 o'clock in the morning. So certainly not ideal, but it's also a very seasonal time for me. It seems like it's been seasonal for a few years now, but I know that that's not going to be the way forever, and hopefully I will feel a little bit more energized. Muscle soreness hasn't been terrible. I'm currently sporting a little bit of a niggling or a nagging injury in my either hamstring or glute tie, but like in that area, generally speaking, if I over lengthen and stretch my glute and my hemi, especially in like a prone hamstring curl, I'm getting a little bit of like discomfort, and it's actually helping. I've tried modifying my exercises a little bit because I'd stopped for 2 weeks just to give it a complete break. So I did no hamstring work for 2 weeks. I basically just took that exercise out and wore the cost, hoping that it would get better. It probably hasn't gotten a whole lot better, to be honest. At any time I feel like myself like in a stretched or lengthened position, it's just an annoying like pain. It's not super bad, but when I reduce the range of motion and I perform like a hamstring curl in like the shortened position or just through the mid portion of the movement, I don't get the pain, but I still have to get into some of these machines where you're already starting in the lengthened position. So I kind of have to be very gentle with the loads at the moment, and I'm doing much higher rep ranges as a result, just so that when I first kind of pull the lever on like one of the machines, it's not excessively loading in that position where I'm finding it uncomfortable. So that's been frustrating. I'm thinking about doing some of the electro-stimulating, what's it called? EMG, ESG? Slipped my mind, but anyway, I'm going to think about putting some of these little electro pads somewhere around that area just to help with blood flow and recovery, because I'm so sedentary. I'm not doing my normal walking, so my overall recovery, like active recovery and like blood flow and nutrient delivery to that area is probably also down from what would be normal for me. So it's probably one of the reasons why I'm not getting better sooner, because I literally do my training and then I'm sitting all day. So I'm aware of it. I will do my best to kind of work through it, but we'll see how that goes. But my energy levels have been meh. I think I explained to some of you guys on my Instagram story not that long ago that I'd been and had all of my blood work done. Most things were great. My testosterone's back down into like the hypergonadal area. This is before I'd even started my prep. So, I suffer with low testosterone. It's so frustrating, and it became really prominent sometime around like January of this year. Like I felt the shift in my energy levels. I wasn't sleeping very well. I just didn't feel great overall. I'm not sure what my response is going to be. I kind of wanted to ride it out and just see if things got better. I don't know that they're going to, considering I'm dieting right now, but at some point I may consider hormone replacement therapy. It's been advised by my doctor again to go back on it, but I'm kind of at this point where I'm time poor. I don't really want to go in for the pellets because it's really annoying and uncomfortable, and I have to have so much time, like 3 days after those, to like recover. You're not allowed to train your glutes, so it's also a little bit of an inconvenience. So at the moment I'm just dealing with it. It's like 15 micromoles per deciliter, I think, with my levels, so quite low again, and that was coming off the back of like having like no deficit, like eating 2,000 calories a day in my off season and just doing minimal training. So there's probably some stress related to that, inadequate sleep probably also related to that. So there are some lifestyle things that I know I can improve that would probably help that. But there's a lot of things that are out of my control right now. So it's like, do I just suffer the consequences or do I do something about it? So I'm kind of in this like I don't know, decision-making stage right now. So I'll keep you informed with what I decide to do. But that being said, let's go and look at my training. So you can see I've got my 4 lifting sessions in here on the screen. I have tracked the energy expenditure just using my Apple Watch. Obviously, these readings are not accurate representations of exactly what I'm really expending, but what it does allow me to do is compare changes or relative changes from one week to the next. So for instance, next week, or I guess the current week, okay, what are you doing, buddy? He always tries to get in my videos, dude. Anyhow, next week when I do the same workout, I want to make sure that my energy expenditure is kind of within, say, like 5% of the previous week. And I may even need to start striving for higher targets the closer I get if I don't or cannot reduce my calories anymore, which is a very real possibility. If I am already on low targets. So my overall weekly energy expenditure came in at 2,195, which is literally half of what they were when I was prepping previously. So you can really see my activity levels are quite a bit lower at the moment just because we've been launching the app, I guess doing a bunch of stuff in business. So I just haven't had the time that I usually would to do all of that extra movement. But my weekly average steps have come in at 5,984. So again, this is about half of what they usually are. You notice if we go over to the columns here that talk about list cardio and missed cardio. So I'm just highlighting those on the screen at the moment. I've only got 2 walks in last week. One was 45 minutes on the weekend, and then the midweek is almost impossible. This was actually done at like, I don't know, 11:30 p.m. at night. Once I finished my coaching a few minutes earlier, I'm like, okay, quick, I'm gonna run up and see what I can get done and then, hop into bed. So I don't have that nice 45-minute to 60-minute walk that I was consistently doing in my previous prep. So I have to make that energy deficit up some other way, which is going to have to be through diet until I can kind of clear up my schedule a little bit more. So yeah, that's basically my data. I'm sure many of you are like, oh my God, this is so low. Like if you were thinking about what you do, I have so many clients. I mean, I can never compare anybody because our situations are always so unique and different. But I have some clients, just as an example, where their average daily steps are like 16,000. They've got a few children, they run around and do after school activities, they're getting their own training in. So, our activity levels are all quite a bit different. And this is why when you, are following along on your favorite fitness influencers page and maybe they're telling you what they do, just keep in mind that everybody's circumstances are a little different and you shouldn't be judging your own activity levels or your step targets or your calories with what they're doing. Because if some of you did what I was doing, you'd be like, oh my gosh, this is horrible, or it doesn't make any sense for me. So I'm not saying that these are like the right targets to follow, in terms of the steps and things like that. It's just that's what I can do right now. So I have to make all of my calculations and manipulations to my weight based on nutrition because that's the only variable that I have control over right now. So as far as where we move for this next week, I'm going to go over to my adjustments. Let's see if we can find the right week. Okay, so it's on the screen right here in front of me. Hopefully you guys can see that. So I was following, let me go 5 and 2. I think this was how it was set up. Yeah. So I was shooting for on the weekdays, 1375. And then on the weekends, 2 days over the weekend, I gave myself a little bit more flexibility of 1509. I'm actually going to have to take these higher days out right now, not because I want to, but because I have to if I want to keep getting leaner. Again, I don't have the luxury right now of saying, I'm going to add in, just a casual 30 more minutes of walking every day. Like, I don't have it. So I'm going to be zapping those out. So if we go to my screen, I'm going to put in, we'll still do some calorie cycling, I think. We'll go 5 and 2 because I do still try to get out of my house on the weekends. But we'll bring those numbers down. So I'm just going to round down my protein a little bit here. Let's see, 120. I don't want to bring my fats down too low, otherwise that's going to compromise my hormonal health. So let's see if we can get some wriggle room here. It's not a major drop. I mean, I would like to try and get more aggressive with this, but I'm just also thinking about the realistic calorie targets that I can hit. 13 is really tough. I mean, for those of you that have dieted before, the rough struggle on these targets. So The good thing is I'm not super active, so I'm not getting the crazy hunger, you know, as a result of doing like hours and hours of cardio. So it hasn't been terrible yet, but I'm sure it is about to. We'll keep my resistance training sessions in. So as far as my goals this week, I want to get between 18 and 2,000 calories of energy expenditure. Let's go over quickly. I just want to take a look. Sorry, I'm trying to move this mic arm because I can't get to my data. Okay, so one thing that I didn't show you on my sheets, and this is all coming straight out of BiaFit, is my volume for all of my resistance training sessions. So one of the sessions here, I stopped tracking halfway through. I obviously got like distracted with something in work, and I only logged half of the session, but I did complete the session on Monday, which was good. So this is a little bit inaccurate this week. So for that first session, I tracked only 7,000 pounds of volume, back up to my kind of more normal 32 for this Miss Bikini Olympia session. 26 and then 11, and this was only like a half session, and I only did half of the exercises in that program because during the photo shoot on Saturday I was there for 3 hours lifting a lot of weight, so I was just really tired and I'd already kind of hit my glutes and things with some of the photos. So I did a partial session on Saturday, which is why my volume there at 11,835 is a little bit lower. So I think my total volume, let's see what this is if I highlight it. Yeah, 77,540. So I suspect that this next week, my volume might be a little bit higher, and my energy expenditure might also be a little bit higher too. So I think that's about all for this week, guys. If you have questions that you would like answered, I know in my previous series on YouTube, I would invite you to ask questions. So please feel free to drop me a comment. I'm currently using, or was currently using, the Miss Bikini Olympia Part 5 program on the workout app BiaFit. So guys, if you do want to access BiaFit, it is available on Android and iOS. You can also download the product on our website, and that actually gives us a little bit more flexibility to manipulate data on the back end. So if you did, for whatever reason, need to pause, if you were going to jump into one of our challenges, we have much more flexibility to do that if you sign up on our website. But all the programs are available in the workout app. We have all of my recipes. So there are over 250 recipes in our library, and we're adding new recipes all the time. We've got exclusive challenge workouts coming up. We have our new challenge starting on April 14th, which is just around the corner. So that is now live on our website. So if you'd like to join this upcoming challenge, you can also go and check out and get registered. And I think that's about all, guys. Thank you so much. I'll see you in my next checkup.